Hello, my friend, and welcome. This is the Back to Me podcast, and I am Heather, and I am super excited that you are here. And I just want to let you know that you're going to hear some tips and some tricks, some ideas, all to help you live your happiest and healthiest life. It is called Back to Me because when you are taking care of yourself, then you can take better care of others. And my goal is to make the world a better place. This is Wellness Your Way. I am really happy that you're here. Your true self is waiting. So it is time to step up and thrive. Hello, my friends. Welcome. It is awesome to see you. This is Heather. This is the Back to Me podcast, and we just continue rolling through 2025 with amazing things happening, and today is no exception. Dun, dun. And today, Christian Elliott. I love people who have names that are easy to pronounce.
Yeah, it is easier, right?
Right. Thank you so much
You're welcome.
for being you. And we're going to go into all the alls of all these good things that we're going to talk about. And the thing that I'm always super interested in the beginning is why? What happened that led you down this road to create this true, well, it's two different things, right? Two whole human and healing united.
Mm-hmm.
And detox. We were just talking briefly before about how toxicity is causing so many issues, and we'll go down that rabbit hole in a minute. But what brought you to this place where you are doing this detox kind of, I feel like it's a detox crusade.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me and for asking. So, yeah, in 2003 I got married and I had the good fortune to woo a wonderful woman, and despite the fact I had some level of not feeling well with frequency, she took me in, and we've been married happily since. But that was the time when my health started kind of falling apart, right? 2003, maybe a little earlier, and then so fast forward 2 years later, I had my health paradigm turned upside down by a chiropractor who taught me everything I didn't know about the medical industrial complex, the food industrial complex, and how the body heals. Rather, you don't have to treat it, you help it heal, and the body's the healer, not the intervention. And so those types of paradigms, after about 2 years, I had found my way back. I had been to half a dozen medical doctors who couldn't help me. And in the return to health, I became somewhat, as you say, like a crusader, passionate about why in the world is what I lived through not the way we do healthcare now. And there are some uncomfortable answers to that question, and then there's just some pragmatic ones. And in short order, roughly a year and a half, 2 years, I became one of the healthiest people I knew. And we went for 9 years at brick and mortar locations where we started with nutrition and personal training and expanded it to wellness in general, and pretty much most of the alternative disciplines you've heard of: chiropractic, acupuncture, massage, nutrition, et cetera, et cetera. We had in one facility, and we integrated them. And so I got a front row seat to seeing how an integrated holistic approach to helping someone heal, with lack of attachment to, well, we have to get everyone to do chiropractic, we have to get everyone to do this lab test, we have to get everyone to do needles or pick the thing. No, we didn't have to do any of that. Our mission was to get people well. And so my journey of being a health coach over the years has morphed from nutritionist to personal trainer to really aggregator and life coach and relationship coach. And back in 2006, I read the book The 100-Year Lie by Randall Fitzgerald. And so rewind to 1906, so 100 years of him exploring this lie that we were going to have better living through chemistry. And really what we got was toxicity and convenience, and recognizing that we've invented over 80,000 new to nature molecules that the human body was not designed to interact with. And then we put them in our foods and in our medicines, and thinking this is going to help us. And sure enough, we have the honor of being the fattest, sickest country in the world here in the United States. And we look at everything except toxicity through the regulatory agencies, through medicine. Nobody goes to identify the upstream problem, which is we're poisoned. And what they instead do is we test and treat the downstream symptoms of poisoning. And sure enough, you've got a disease. Never mind where that came from. Let's just treat the symptoms. Wasn't acceptable to me. And so I've been kind of redirected back through the COVID era to this problem of toxicity, as I was asked to help look at the shots and say, how are we helping the people that have been injured by them? And that made me say, well, what's in them? And that made me say, holy cow, we don't even know all the ingredients. Just last year, we found way more that weren't disclosed. Like, so it led me back to saying, I've got to figure out how to get things out of the body that don't belong in them. And so our personal coaching business kind of morphed into a collaborative effort with different doctors and coaches to really trying to help the whole person heal, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual, and detox them from chemicals, yes, microbes, yes, but also toxic thinking. So that's really maybe the shortest version of what the last 20 years have looked like.
And I find it interesting because often when people get sick, like, depending on if it's an age related, I say in quotation marks, because I don't think it is, but people will say, oh, I'm not 20 anymore. Well, maybe that's not what the problem is. You know what I mean? It's like they're expecting to, so they don't question the fact that they don't feel great anymore.
Yeah.
I'm getting older, so I'm supposed to not feel good. I don't agree with that.
No, I think disease is not inevitable. Death is obviously inevitable. Getting older is inevitable, but disease is not. Like, we don't have to live with that.
Right. And it is fascinating. I hadn't heard of the 100-year lie, so that's obviously now on my list of things to check out.
Yeah.
But I'm often heard to say that, usually I only say this to my husband, that convenience is killing us.
It is, on so many levels.
We want things like, I'm not going to say that I necessarily want to toil on the farm and, die at 50 because I've worked myself to death, but especially since I'm 58 now. But I am interested in the fact that we've tried to, with good intention, I don't think there was any bad intention of it, to like make people healthier. We thought we were doing the right thing, but when we realized it was wrong, we didn't own up to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we didn't stop it. Correct.
Like, oh, it wasn't fat that was the problem, but we replaced all the fat with sugar, which is now a problem. Let's just pretend that didn't happen. So
yeah. Getting public health officials to take ownership of any mistakes they've made is somewhat of a fool's errand. We don't need to wait for them to do that or to have any more evidence.
Right. And it's fascinating that it was a chiropractor who shifted your thoughts, because I mean, I don't know if it's the same there, but I remember when I was a kid, chiropractors were always seen as like sham doctors, but they just have a different perspective, and they're not always right, but they're not always wrong either. I mean,
but nobody
neither are regular doctors. I remember I was getting tests for something, and she finally admitted to me, she goes, Heather, I've tested everything I can think of. There's nothing wrong with you. I'm like, yes, there is. You just don't know what it is.
Right. Yeah. The number of people I've talked to where your lab test came back normal. Good news. And we're like, yeah, except whatever this is not normal. Right. Just because you can't find it doesn't make it not real.
And I love the fact that you had like all these different disciplines, because like I was a massage therapist for 14 years, and I don't know what it's like down there. Here, you had to go to school for 2 years to get to become a massage therapist. And it's a regulated health profession. But I would just tell people, look, I don't know what this is. You better go see this person. I had no problem sending people out. And I had my network of practitioners that I would send people to, acupuncture, you name it, naturopaths. But I wish they were all in the same building, because that would have made life so much easier. I would even send them to the doctor if I thought, they needed a doctor, because I could detect skin cancer a lot of the time, and I needed to start them somewhere. So, yeah.
It's unfortunate how much medicine has fragmented into specialties. I actually call specialists partialists now. I think it's more accurate.
Right.
They're so specialized. They have a tiny sliver of what the real person is like, or the whole issue. And they unfortunately typically act as if they've got the best and comprehensive answer, when in reality, they're not looking at the whole person in any meaningful way. And to your point, very few disciplines interact with each other. Say, what are you guys learning over there? What can we learn from you? There's parallel trenches, and nobody bothers to pick their head up and look around and be like, oh, there's more to this person than they're lonely, they're thirsty, they're malnourished, they're traumatized. There's any number of things going on. And They're just that simple hammer nail. Every person looks like a nail because this is the only hammer I have. So I'm
Right.
just going to only look at them through this one lens of hormones or macros or
And they become,
pH or whatever.
yeah, they become so specialized. I just remember I often had conversations with clients. I went to see my orthopedic surgeon. They want me to have surgery. I'm like, that's because that's all they know how to do.
Right.
Let's talk about other. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like purely a physical, mechanical, physical thing. But it is true. Like, and it's people have to advocate for themselves now, but they're so lost on even
Yeah.
where to start.
No, we tell people the system, it does not advocate for you. In fact, and this is a harder point for people to swallow, the system actually thrives upon mistreating you, upon you not doing well. They're not only are they not looking out for you, that sometimes they mean you harm because it makes a lot of money. And
Right.
that is uncomfortable to entertain. But once that clicks into like, that's reality. The official reality is this is benevolent, altruistic. They just happen to make a lot of money, but it's because they're doing such a good job. No, once it clicks that there's reality that this system is not looking out for us, it's so much easier to see how to navigate it or even where it's worthy of engagement because if they're not trying to help you and they're trying to make you a customer for life or talk you into an expensive surgery, to your point, because that's all they know, they're telling you this doesn't heal. Well, all that means is with the knowledge they have, they don't know how to help it heal. It doesn't mean it's not
Right.
possible to do it. And if you can kind of shed that trance and then look more objectively at what they've labeled the alternative world, because they're really good at linguistic policing of you can't say that word. We have
Yes.
bought the rights, and every other person who uses the word treat, cure, prevent, ameliorate, mitigate is in trouble because only Western medicine can claim that they do that. And you realize that you're the emperor who has no clothes. You're the Wizard of Oz pretending that you have all this power when really all you have is cut, burn, poison at the end of the day. Oh, then let's get to the heart of the problem.
Let's
Let's
go
figure
right
out
in.
why this person's sick and let's get them well because it's not that complicated. We have to take away burden and we have to nourish this person. Now we expand what burden and nourishment mean, but it's not that complicated of a puzzle to heal people, but it's just not how the system thinks.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember when I first started, it was my realization that prevention wasn't what they were interested in
Not at all.
and I always felt like it was just because for the first little while, it was like, they just are so far behind, they can't get ahead of it. Right. It's just like,
Yeah.
they're just putting out fires. That's when I was in corporate and I realized that sometimes I was just putting out corporate fires because I didn't have time to catch up. So I was kind of cutting them some slack, but I feel like they're the cause of their own suffering in some ways, although they're not suffering. They're the cause, like you said, of our suffering because they're like, we just need to push this through. We'll figure out. It's like a piece of software, like Apple releasing stuff before it's ready. We'll just push it through and we'll fix the bugs later. Well, unfortunately, in healthcare, the bugs end up being people in the hospital.
Or dead
or
in
dead.
the morgue. Yeah.
Which is not really my thing that I'm aiming for just yet.
No, I saw a great cartoon. It said its first day of med school was the heading, and it said it's a professor pointing to the board, and it says a patient cured is a customer lost. It just sums up all of Western medicine in one short sentence or two sentences.
Wow.
That's really, that's how the system is set up to work. And it's set up, go back to 1910 with the Flexner Report, it was set up by monopolists who wanted a standardized way they could tell the populace what to do.
Now, it's interesting, a slight paradigm difference here is because we don't pay for most of our health care. But, we pay for it indirectly. I mean, we don't have to pay for each thing we want. We just go to the hospital. But that causes other issues in that if doctors think that you're going to be too expensive for them, they'll fire you as a patient.
Yeah, I believe
it. It's like, what? Your doctor fired you? The first time someone told me that, my head almost fell off because, doctors are supposed to look after you. But as patients get older and doctors say, I can make this much per patient and you're going to cause your ROI is too low, so I'm going to fire you. So people are having trouble finding doctors. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So,
well, it's funny, even here in the US, when the different times when doctors have gone on strike, the death rates go down. It's there. It sounds funny to hear, but it's true. Like that system, you're going to call me crazy, murders people every year with properly prescribed drugs. Never mind the ones that are
Idiopathic.
right.
Aren't they idiopathic? We don't know
What
why they died.
idiopathic means disease of unknown origin. Like, oh
Yeah.
no, I don't know. And then tell you the stupid list of it's genetics, it's aging, it's stress, it's all in your head, or I don't know. Maybe you should just talk to a shrink. You're probably just making it up. That's if you ask a doctor, you press a medical doctor on why someone's sick, you're usually going to get one of those 5 answers, unless it's a really awake doctor who's willing to say, oh, you may have a toxicity problem. You may be malnourished. You might be poisoning yourself with crappy food.
Right.
And we should eat different and drink different water. But they just don't. It's that they're so stuck in the biochemical paradigm. Typically, they can't think outside the periodic table when it comes to helping people heal, that it's just symptom whack-a-mole. And that is a path to nowhere. It's just a path to more medications and more interventions. And if you want to heal, friends, you've got to step outside that system. And the rest of what they've labeled the alternative world, because it sounds like, oh, be careful, it's an alternative, like it's not mainstream. They've labeled it with the word they want us to have. But everything outside the medical system probably has more to offer you. And unless we're talking trauma or emergency care, in that case, go to the ER and go see a good orthopedic or emergency room. But otherwise,
when I had my stroke, in 2021, I went to the hospital, and I'm happy that I did.
Mm-hmm.
But afterwards, because they wanted me on baby aspirin every single day for the rest of my life, I said, why?
Yeah. Because it's standard of care? That's
yes.
Why? Yeah.
So now I argue with standard of care, and I understand their reasoning behind it as a giant populace of millions of people, but they didn't look at my health to say, oh, actually, she doesn't need it.
Right.
Actually, she'll probably has more of a chance of bleeding to death from taking aspirin every day.
Yeah.
So I know we could talk about this forever, all the examples, but detoxing, I'm a fan. So I know you talk about detox mistakes, and you talk about 6. Mm-hmm. What are they? What are the 6 things?
There's so many things. There's a lot of common detox mistakes people make.
Right.
But it might be more helpful just to frame, like, what are we actually, so we had to step back when we started looking at these COVID shots just in October of 2024. There was a new paper that came out in the Journal of Vaccine Theory, Practice and Research. So they had they studied the top 6 brands still on the market. They took the J&J wasn't in there. And what they found was there were 55 undeclared chemicals not on the label. So that's average of 9 ingredients not listed on the shots that are found in the shots, including heavy metals, which just makes you throw up your hands and be like, I don't even know what I'm trying to detox people from.
Right.
So we had to step back and say, what do we need to detox people from? And the short answer was anything that poisons it. It's like, oh, okay, that's a good place to start. The next question was, well, what things poison the body? And so that was, well, it's microbes and any unbalanced microbes. So you're never going to get rid of every yeast and fungus and mold and bacteria and so on, nor would you want to. Like, there's a symbiosis some of these organisms have with us. But when they get unbalanced, when they're feeding on rot and death and decay and inflammation, they're just going to continue to self-replicate in your body. So unbalanced microbes is one. And then you've got natural chemicals like venoms, or what might be these spike proteins that potentially our body's been hijacked to make. That would be pathologic. And then you've got unnatural chemicals. You've got mercury, or you get the things that show up in all of our cosmetics and personal care products, or lawn products, or food chemicals, or industrial chemicals. And there's tens of thousands of them. Well, anything unnatural that the body can't process that's corrosive, we would need to purge that. And the other one was thoughts. Our thoughts can be so toxic. And when we got our head around, these are the things that we need to get out of the body or out of the mind. It was a much more approachable way to handle this. And one of the biggest ones we found was parasites. Oh my gosh, talk about an overlooked problem. Right. That is so dismissed by Western culture, and especially the US. It is something that I'm pretty much convinced everyone has them. You go to any other country and they're like, yeah, we just detox parasites every year. That's a normal thing. We just do a cleanse. And here we're like, we just pretend it's it's not real. I just read a book. What was it, last week?
They don't do anything. Come on.
No, I read a book last week. There's a heart surgeon who gave up his profession because he kept pulling worms out of people during surgery And the hospital system wouldn't let him tell the patients that's what he did. They're not allowed to know that because we do not acknowledge that as a problem. We
Oh
need
my
them to
Lord.
think what we're doing is what fixes them. And that's just there's a CIA document from 1950 where they demonstrated that parasites and tumors look like the same thing. So you can have what they think is cancer or tumors, PCOS or endometriosis or whatever going on inside you. And what you really have is a parasite infection.
Right.
And it's a self-replicating problem. So no matter how many times you cut these little nodules out, they're going to keep coming back. And so that's just one example in the microbial realm. And then you look at heavy metals and the ubiquity of those, or the disgusting level at which they show up in fast food and school lunches. And my goodness, what percentage of the population is now poisoned? And so much of that explains why we're sick in the first place. But then the mistakes come in when we hear about these things and it seems like a massive problem all over the board, and we don't have a methodical plan for how to get through it. So trying too much and just making yourself sick is a problem. Not doing enough and just doing kind of tidying rather than a deep cleaning and a patient methodical process that may take a month or 3 months to really go through. A lot of people just don't know that's there, and they don't account for lifestyle changes that need to happen in order to undergird a process that doesn't just wear you out and you flame out because it got a little bit hard. So that's another major thing we see that is an impediment to people. So there's more I could talk about, but that can somewhat give you a flavor of, if we had to really simplify, there's basically two things that make us sick. We're toxic or we're malnourished. No. Well, that kind of, and usually both. And so if that makes it a lot simpler, is that we've got to get the toxins out in a methodical way. Parasites and heavy metals are the hardest things to get out. We finally cracked the code on that. And now we have to nourish people, and we expand our definition of nourishment beyond food. Yes, food is nourishment, obviously, but so is water, so is sleep, so is movement, and so is hope. If we don't have those,
sleep is one of my favorite things to prescribe to people, although I'm not allowed to prescribe, but to recommend.
Right. It might help with the symptoms of everything you're dealing with.
Yeah, exactly.
So, if you can sleep, some people have a hard time getting to sleep. You got to get rid of the toxins to interrupt what's keeping them from being able to sleep. And sometimes the toxins are a soul that's not at rest. It's just an anxiousness or a fear that doesn't let their mind shut off.
Right.
And that upstream toxicity has to be dealt with before they finally can sleep. But it's been a fun journey to, it sounds silly to me in retrospect, 20 years to figure that out, to make it that simple. But it really is. That's the simplicity of health. And once you know how to pull these levers and then just adapt to the individual, oh my gosh, it gets so much easier.
It's kind of like untangling headphone wires, right?
There you go. Yes,
so
thank you. You know my pain.
They're like, I'm never going to get this untangled. And then you finally find the key that to let it hooray, I can put my headphones on.
Finally. Yes. As I'm committed to not putting wireless things on me, I have to live with the burden of tangled cords, and I'm happy to suffer that pain.
Well, and it's interesting, like people can feel more overwhelmed after realizing how much can be wrong, right? So I just remember parasites, I came back from Africa and they're like, we don't know why you're sick. But I ended up in a teaching hospital with a super keen medical student who tested so many things. They figured out I had schistosomiasis. I'm like, holy crap, what's that? And it was parasite, which is normal in Africa where I was. They're like, oh yeah. I was like, how do people live with that there?
It's probably normal where you are now. It's not like imagine it. Parasites are like, shoot, they established a Western country here. I guess we're just going to not do anything here. We're just going to have to go back to Africa. They're everywhere, and they're in everything, and they're in our water systems in the municipal, typical city water. It's in the pipes, and they can be microscopic. It doesn't have to be a visible worm.
Oh no, these weren't visible.
Yeah. So,
and sometimes I think the treatment is worse, but that's
that took me a while. I've been through several different parasite cleanses to find something I finally feel like I can finally do this. And it doesn't, like, some of the most uncomfortable moments I've had in life were doing a parasite cleanse. And now to know how to do it and walk through it without fear of that, or to know how to respond if the body starts giving me feedback like, oh my gosh, this is awful. I know what to do. And that is a code worth cracking, because if you have a self-replicating toxin inside you that lays eggs and continues to hatch, And there's so many symptoms of it that people that don't know are associated with it. Brain fog, teeth grinding, obvious anal itching is one, but some of the other ones are just, you wouldn't have guessed that things not GI related can be indicative of a parasite infection, like mood being unstable. That is a big one. And or especially when you start disrupting them, they really don't appreciate it. And they can protest and
I had this, oh no, menopause is a parasite. No, it's not. It's natural.
That is, yes, that happens if you live long enough.
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
But because I never want people to feel overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, so you have two companies, True Whole Human and Healing United.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
That's right.
And what is the difference between the two?
True Whole Human is our personal coaching business that we've had for, I guess, 8 years now. We started that after we closed our brick and mortar locations. My wife and I we still love coaching and we love helping people. And it freed us from the early mornings, late nights, and weekends that you work in the brick and mortar realm, and allowed us
yoga studio.
Yeah, you get it. So much more conducive to family life. And so we've been in the virtual world helping people since 2017. And that has been our full-time job. But then in 2023, we started collaborating, just trying to help people heal who'd had adverse reactions to the shots. And I needed to network with the doctors and coaches I knew to have a better answer for that. And what it turned into was just such a series of rich, authentic conversations. I actually started a podcast over it because I had so many cool conversations. I thought we should record these because this could help so many people. So I started a podcast, and Healing United just kind of came to life as a fun collaborative. It's called Deconstructing Conventional, which, as you can guess from some of my comments, I've maybe put a lot of thought into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put that link in because I know there's going to be people who want to go over and listen to that too.
Well, thank you, Heather.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that led to, it's almost like we're turning healthcare on its head. It's a rebirth. What we think healthcare could have been all along when you take down these walls between disciplines. And it's fun for me being the health coach in the room because typically I'm like there's the cute little guy in the corner. Like, we'll let you know if we need anything, but we're going to handle it. We're the experts. And then in some ways I stand toe to toe with them, and I match wits, and they found out this guy knows some things, and we have things to learn from him, and vice versa. I have things to learn from them. And so it's been some of the funnest work I've ever done. What has been getting Healing United going, and then just seeing the transformative power it has in people when there's a collaborative, it's a doctor supervised, coach led, community supported way of doing healthcare now. And that has been, it's just so much fun and so rewarding. And the community aspect, they get to encourage each other, and you don't feel like you're going through a cleanse by yourself or a fast by yourself or a workout program, whatever.
Which is important because when you're feeling those days,
Mm-hmm.
because I've done some of them with the naturopath, when you're feeling those days where you're like, this sucks.
Yeah.
But you need a friend.
It's way more fun. And we do families. We got a whole household can go through it at once. And or do you get people in the local area that can support each other, and when they can meet up, that's even better. So we've had so many people over the years become friends because we were the intersection at the trailhead where they came. So yeah, it's just healthcare could have been this if it wasn't run by monopolists.
Well,
and it's just fun to rebirth
healthcare can evolve into this.
Yeah,
because
I think it needs to.
Yeah, I feel like the world is evolving. Things are starting to be questioned that were taken for granted for a really long time. And we're really slow to recognize things sometimes. We're just hoping it'll go away, right?
Yeah.
It'll take care of itself. Somebody will come and save us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're like, as much as we give millennials a hard time, I think they're starting to realize that, I'm not waiting for someone to come and help me. I'm doing it myself.
Yeah.
And we're annoyed with them because they're doing that. It's like, no, you're supposed to follow the way we do things. But
in some ways I say to them, please don't. Like,
yeah,
you recognize that Social Security is probably not going to be there for you. You probably recognize the food that you're given is crap, and inflation is killing you, and so please go make a better way. And those of us who are a little more seasoned and can see this or have wisdom to bring to it, humble yourself enough to come ask us for it, because we can show you where the potholes are and we can speed up your learning curve significantly.
Right.
But yes, some of these systems have got to go. I delight in the idea of somebody on my podcast put it, driving a stake into the heart of Rockefeller medicine, saying that is done, and getting rid of this poisonous so-called food that we have, and returning to local, organic, sustainable, nutrient-rich food. I look forward to lifestyles that are less social media toxic and that have
Right.
more
And we didn't even get
person-to-person
to the
connection.
whole mental toxicity, which is another one of my favorite
Oh, it
topics,
is.
right?
Yeah, I'm happy to say whatever you want about that. You ask me a question, I'll brace for
Let's
impact because I'll keep
let's
talking.
yeah, I know. I said ish, right? So we can
Yes, you
just keep
did.
talking. I
Okay.
said I'm the boss. So mental toxicity. There's so many ways that we fool ourselves into
Oh
thinking
my.
that we're not, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And what do you find is an easy way for people to uh, flip their switch to recognize that negativity that's going on? And maybe there isn't an easy way,
Well,
but
yeah, I don't know if there's an easy way, but so transparency. I come from a Christian perspective, so it's hard for me to articulate the underpinnings of real hope and worth and significance without that. But so I don't know how
you can do it.
yeah,
It's
I don't know how,
okay.
I
We're
don't know how
not.
other,
No, I'm multi-denominational. I believe they're all partly right and all partly wrong.
okay, well,
So there
I'll
you go.
just give you my perspective then. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say that the biggest wounds I see people dealing with in the mental toxicity realm are feelings of inadequacy, feelings of unworthiness, feelings of pointlessness, and those translate into any number of behaviors. But at the end of the day, it's if I'm not worthy, then I can't belong anywhere. If I don't have what it takes, then I might be estranged from the tribe, or I might be exposed as not good enough. And so they're fear-based primal emotions. And if those coupled with shame or some other label that says you're not lovable, and when people feel or perceive those, and when their thoughts are in that negative swirly loop, then it arrests any positive outcome they could have, because they truncate their own effort by telling themselves that story. So one of the key questions I ask people is just, what story are you telling yourself? And I'm telling myself this, that, or the other thing is going to happen if I do this. It's a fear-based story. I could easily tell the story that this good thing could happen too. Yeah,
Right.
and the fear shifts them away from trying. And so to me, the underpinnings of worth and adequacy and purpose are found in, we were created in the image of God, and we are the object of his affection. We are his beloved, and we're worthy because he said we're worthy. And we can even split hairs on worth and say, are you worthy in what sense? Worthy to own the world and rule everything? Well, no, it's not. We're not. You're loved, and your worth to the creator of the universe is settled. You could not be more valuable. And you are worthy because he said he's worthy of hatching the grandest rescue mission and the biggest conspiracy there in history to come rescue the people who were estranged from him. And your adequacy, well, adequate for what? To max out every virtue, play every instrument, learn every language, or just, are you adequate to try? And yes, and who are you to not try? Who are you to sit on your hands and waste that gift and not stretch yourself? Because we have such a crummy, I'll call it theology of suffering, such a resistance to struggle, and we paint it as if it's bad and it's to be avoided at all costs. About the only place we have left where we kind of hat tip to struggle being good is exercise. Like, it stinks, but do it, and it's going to make you'll be stronger. And
But
you
then
can
there's
literally
how
feel
many
that.
people don't do it though,
Right.
because
Who am I to
so
try that? I'm self-conscious at the gym, or it doesn't work and it hurts. And we did every excuse in the world. I knew I couldn't do it. And now I have evidence that I couldn't do it. And then it's just this reinforcing cycle of, I don't have what it takes. And we're back
right.
to that same wound. But when you can embrace a robust theology of suffering that says it builds resilience, it builds perseverance, it forges character, and overcoming something hard shows me that I did that. And it builds confidence, and it makes you say, if another hard thing came up, I could probably do that too. I might have and I won't know if I have what it takes till I try. And if I find out that was harder than I thought it would be, then I can try again. Failure is an event, not a label, not an
Right.
identity.
Yeah.
It's just something that happened, and you can
And it's
learn from
actually
it.
usually feedback. So failure is just feedback of what
Yeah,
didn't work, right? And
yeah,
I actually don't see it as suffering. I don't see all those things as suffering, and it's just semantics, really.
sure,
It's
that's fine.
like I see it as like short-term pain
Hmm.
or discomfort, but suffering is choosing to stay in that place instead of going, "Oh, I figured that out. Let's go." Or, "Oh, yeah, that didn't work. Let's change it." Like choosing to
Sure.
keep repeating the same thing for me is suffering. Like repeating those patterns of, and you see it in the weight loss industry would go out of business if it actually did its job properly, because it's like, okay, I lost my weight. I feel good now. Thanks.
Uh-huh.
Instead of the bouncing back and forth, they
Hmm.
sabotage themselves because they still haven't addressed why. They're just say, don't eat for a few months, and then we won't figure out why you got that way. But it's like choosing to stay in that cycle of suffering instead of
Hmm.
figuring out what it is, figuring out what
Well,
you need,
yeah.
and then doing that, doing the work first, doing that work for that period of time you need to, and
Hmm.
revisiting it when you have to cleanse again or something. But
Yeah,
I
well,
find,
I agree. There's the self-inflicted suffering. That's just how long you want to stay in that loop and keep telling yourself that.
yeah,
But there is externally imposed suffering where things are done to you.
true,
And those forms of suffering, you get fired from a job or you have abuse from someone, that those are not necessarily your fault, but you have ownership of how you respond to them. And those crummy, sometimes awful, traumatic stories can still be turned into something beautiful if you will extract the lessons that can be made from them. And that to me is it's so fun to work at helping people build the muscle of resilience and tell themselves, I can do hard things. And
right?
what's the next hard thing? I want to see
Yeah,
what I'm made of. And you take on that warrior inflection point of, I'm not going to play the victim card. I'm not going to blame shift. I'm going to I'm going to own it and know that my outcomes are downstream of my efforts. And that doesn't mean I'm going to perfectly execute anything. That this all or nothing fallacy that I've helped tease out of, that silly idea that I'm going to be all in. I'm going to work out and do the diet perfect. I'm going to do the
that's
whatever it
the
is you set your
January
hand to.
resolution, right?
Right. Everybody's here
I'm
now,
gonna go
right?
to the gym every day,
Yeah, no, you're not. And but the other option they default to is nothing. Like if I
right?
can't perfectly execute it, then I won't do anything. Well, neither of those are gonna. You're never going to be perfect, and doing nothing is a non-starter. So the
Yeah,
only option you have is imperfect progress. That's the only one you've ever made at anything you've done. So lean into metabolize that nugget that your progress is going to be imperfect. That just means don't quit. Tell yourself you can do hard things. It's okay to have struggle. It's making you better. So work at it. And as that muscle gets stronger, guess what it does is it pushes out unworthiness, inadequacy, and lack of purpose.
right.
The struggle's leading me somewhere because I can see that I'm becoming, I'm growing. And yep, sure enough, it sweetens my relationships when I operate in that headspace. It makes me show up better at work. I show up better in the gym. I show up better at whatever you put your hand to because you're not operating from this lowly place of shame and inadequacy and on and on. That you are fully known and fully loved by the creator of the universe. Well, that's a good start.
Right.
And the rest of it is, I can build on that. So those are some of the big mental toxins that I find in people.
And I know that, like, it is the way we're built that we actually feel more satisfaction from doing something that we had to work for
Yes.
than
Rather
if
than a
it was
handout.
just, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's
Well,
like,
every time they try the universal basic income or vouchers, all you create is more apathy and more entitlement. And that never leads anywhere good. As a
right.
society, we can't, there's, whether we like it or not, we extract value and sense of achievement and confidence from overcoming. And if
Yeah.
you rob people of that, they don't grow and they're
Right.
stunted and they just want more of a handout. And that leads to nowhere.
Yeah. You're not helping them grow and be,
Hmm.
be whatever it is they came here to be.
Right.
Right. So,
Yeah. Potential not realized.
yeah.
Yeah.
Time for a do over,
Yeah.
friends.
Exactly.
So, where do people find you
Yeah, well, yeah, as you mentioned, they can find me or listen to me more
at the podcast?
at Deconstructing Conventional as a podcast. I hosted it. It's on most every major platform you could look up. The two businesses you mentioned are True Whole Human. So that's truewholehuman.com. And then Healing United is the collaborative effort I do where we really get into the weeds of detox. And so we have 3 different programs for 3 different kinds of people. We have an 8-week accelerated detox. We have a 16-week mind and body cleanse and a year-long lifestyle immersion. And so people can just apply to figure out which of those is the best fit, but it depends on where they are in their journey. And so that can be found at healingunited.today. So we wanted that instead of .com, we wanted .today because it conveys a sense of urgency. Let's get on with it already. We've got some changes to make, and this doesn't have to take forever. So yeah. And you can find
and a year isn't that long, friends. I know you went, I could hear them going, a year. Oh my God. But
well, if you've got 100 pounds to lose, I promise that's not coming off in 8 weeks.
Right.
If you're on multiple medications, you've got disease conditions, you've never done anything like this before, then we're shepherding you through a lifestyle change journey and holding your hand with a very robust support system behind you that takes time. Some of these ideas need time to grow. Somebody has to water the seed, and then somebody has to bring sunshine and fertilizer.
I think a year would set you up for way more chance of success.
It does.
Like a year of having someone help you so you can integrate all of those things.
We get to go through every season and every predictable excuse loop if it's cold outside or it's raining or I got vacation or my kids are back in school or whatever. Like it's all going to come up.
Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, it's Valentine's Day, it's Halloween.
Yeah, there's always something. And so, if you keep waiting for the perfect time, you're not going to have it. Like, it's like waiting to go to Israel when it's safe. Like you're probably not going to go. You just go. If you want to get healthy,
I went to Jordan in 2024. People said, "Oh my God, you're crazy. It's not safe." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't care.
I'm going." Going to be? Yeah. When can you you can walk outside and a brick could fall out of the sky and hit you in the head and it's over. Like risk is involved in going throughout your day. So
risk is a part of living.
Yeah, you can't skip it. So let's not live from a place of fear. It's so much more fun when fear is not what motivates you. When love is what motivates you, when adventure is what motivates you, when rich relationships is what motivates you. Gosh, life is so much more fun. Right. So we help people live in that headspace, but it can take a while to untangle those weeds, especially if they're mental toxins.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Amazing. Oh my gosh. I feel like you have still more stuff, but
oh yeah, I've barely cleared my throat.
Respecting
the listener, yes.
Respecting the listeners and you, because I know you have other things on your deck. Before we depart, the guest always gets the final word of wisdom. Now, you've already dropped a lot of truth bombs, but is there some final words of wisdom that you would share for us?
Do you want to aim me in a particular topic for that one?
You get to choose.
I get to choose. Ooh, no pressure there, right? Okay. Final word of wisdom. Well, I guess I would say never give up might be whatever it is you're going through. Somebody out there needs to hear this. Life is hard. It has its blips, its glitches, it has roadblocks, and it has devastating moments to it. And so none of us gets a free pass from struggle in this life. But you are never without hope. You are never without a creator that loves you ferociously and would move heaven and earth to come find you. And so whatever you're going through, dig deep, find the reserves, ask a deeper question. I find in times of life when I have I'm kind of lost for what to do, or something difficult has happened, all I'm at is I'm at a crossroads of trying to find better questions. And so I just encourage you to dig deep and ask better questions. And I think the more you do that, the more God and good friends can handle your skeptical questions, the more peace and hope can find you. So just in summary, never give up. And it may apply a little bit of grit or elbow grease to get where you want to go, but put in the time, and discipline does pay off.
Amazing. Those are excellent words.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Christian. It was so awesome talking with you.
Well, you as well, Heather. Thank you for inviting me. And it's great to be on your show.
Friends in podcast land, I know that you know someone who needs to hear this. So you know what to do. Press the share button. Yes, you're right. Right now, press the button. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to subscribe. Send us some love. Send us some hearts. And we'll see you next time. Hello, my friend. I hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you found it useful and you're like me and you want to help others, please share this, comment, like, subscribe, all of those things that will help this podcast to be found by more people. And if you found it useful, there's a chance that someone else will find it useful as well. if you ever have any questions, I am here to answer your questions. I would love to help you. My direct email address is info@heatherstewart.coach. You can also find me at heatherstewart.coach. And if you go over to my website, you will find copies of the podcast. You'll find the link to my Instagram and my Facebook. And I do have a personal request because I do want to help as many people as I can with these podcasts. So if you could give me a review, and my friend, I would love if you gave me a good one. If you could share this, if you could send it out into the world, I would truly appreciate it. I hope that you have an amazing day. I hope that you are finding your way back to wellness by getting back to me. Take care, my friend. Be well, and we will see you again next time.